I'd like to welcome you to the next video in the Affinity 10 series. My name is Nick with TDG. And the focus of this video is going to be how we can add color swatches to our new document. We're going to have a primary focus on how we can add CMYK color values to our project to make sure we can use these branded colors throughout our design process. We will also take a look at how we can rename colors, delete colors, how we can add global colors and what global colors actually are and control, and also how we can import palettes and export palettes to share with other designers. For demonstration purposes, I currently have an 8.5 inch by 11 inch document where I have provided a concept logo and the CMYK color values that are associated with that logo that we will be adding to our document palette. If for some reason this panel is closed, go underneath the window menu and make sure Swatches is checkmarked. Working through the studio panel, we have the option to set the fill, the color stroke, the opacity. You'll see any recent colors we have been working with in our project. In the drop-down menu, you can choose from gradients, grays, colors, which we currently have selected, or Pantone color matching if you have to match a particular color for a client for production output. Along the right-hand side, you also have the option to add that current fill to the palette, or you can choose to remove a fill, add a basic black, gray, or white. To start our demonstration, we're going to go underneath the hamburger icon up here along the right. It's a 3-line icon, and throughout most of my training courses, I will be referring to this as the hamburger icon. And by clicking on that, we have a lot more options available to us in this drop-down menu. This is how we can add our global colors. We can add an application palette. And to expand upon what an application palette is, if you're working on your own personal branding, or you have a customer that has provided you with their brand colors and you know you're going to be doing a lot of design work for them, you can enter all their colors and then save that as an application palette. So anytime you open Affinity Publisher, those colors will be available to you to use without you having to constantly go back and add those colors again from scratch. It is a huge time saver to add those as application palettes if you'll be using them over and over again. We can also add a document palette, which we will be doing here shortly. And just as the name entails, that applies only to this particular document that we are working on. You can also rename a palette. We're going to jump down here a little bit to the appearance where I have Show as List checkmarked. And Show as List just means over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice you can see the color values next to the swatches themselves. That's what the list option controls. And I also have mine set to large so that the swatches are easier to see on your screen. Going back up here to Add Document Palette, we're going to click on that. And now we have the option to enter a palette name. I'm going to enter the name of this one as Everything Salad and say OK. Now we have a blank palette to work with, and we now begin the process of adding the colors to our palette. The easiest way to do that is going underneath our Swatches panel and double-clicking on the Set Fill. Depending on what options you had selected previously in this panel, you may have a different view selected. Just simply toggle down the drop-down and select CMYK sliders. In our CMYK sliders, we're now going to enter this first color value of 55. Hitting our tab key, we can tab through them quickly, 0, 75, and 0. And you'll see over here in the preview that our swatch has changed to our green color. I can now click on Close. And now the next step is to actually add this swatch to our palette. So to do that, we're going to go up underneath our studio panel again and click Add Current Fill to Palette. And there we have the color value that we have just assigned and the swatch representation. We're going to repeat this process for adding in the orange color. I'm going to double click on it again. This time we will add in 0, 65, 75, 0. Click on Close. And once again, click on Add Current Fill to Palette. And now we can add these to the objects on our page by clicking on it. And now clicking on the swatch in our studio panel. So there's our green. And there's our orange. Now let's say we wanted to add a global color to our palette as well, and what a global color actually does. Going back underneath our hamburger icon, I'm going to click on Add Global Color. I'm going to change our drop down to be CMYK sliders. And we'll say for this example, I just want a very basic cyan color. And maybe just give it a little bit of magenta. And say Add. So now we have a global color here added to our swatches panel. I want to draw your attention to the lower left. You'll notice a small white triangle in the lower left. That means this swatch is a global color. So if I click on this particular square on our page and click on global color, we can now change these two squares to be our global color. If we want to rename our color swatches, we can simply right click on it, choose rename global color. And I can call this global color cyan. Click OK. And now we'll demonstrate the power of global colors. Let's say, for example, we had used this cyan throughout a several page document, several design elements and instances of this color used throughout our layout. If we didn't have this set up as a global color, we would have to go through each of those instances one by one and change the color manually by clicking on it and then coming over here and clicking on it again to the new color. By having this set as a global color, I can now double click on this color swatch. And let's say they wanted it to be a darker color. As I change this color and slide it, you'll notice over here, they automatically changed on our page. And that is the benefit that global colors gives us, is if we know we're using a color throughout an entire layout, but a design decision is made later to change that color, we can quickly modify that color as a global color, and it will update throughout our entire document. Now with our new colors added, we can come back underneath the hamburger icon, and then we can either choose to export this if we wanted to share it with another designer. And by clicking on export, it's simply going to go to whatever folder you have specified. I can click on save. And now if I wanted to import that into a later project, I can go underneath import palette as a document palette. And as long as you have that file type as an option, you can then import that into your project. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this session of Affinity 10. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.